live. So I'm here with my friends.
Hold it.
Oh, oh.
Sorry, Gwen. Sorry, Vegaani.
Okay. uh, so
Oh,
I'm today here with my friend Alice Dee. Um, I did already do it some other podcasts with her in the past. Some months ago, I think it was. Today I'm going to talk about with her about another book of her, which is the Paleo
the
diet.
Pliocene. The
Pliocene diet.
Pliocene diet.
Pliocene diet. And we have a whole list of questions that we are going to ask, and I hope you will enjoy um, the stream for today. I'm a little bit nervous because I've not done an interview in a couple of months,
Okay.
and I hope it is going well. And so the first, let me look. The first question I was having for LSD is what inspired you to write um the Pliocene diet?
Pliocene.
Pliocene diet.
The, the Pliocene diet.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pliocene.
Uh, well, Vegaani, the inspiration came from recognizing that there was a profound mismatch between the foods our body evolved to thrive on and the foods that dominate modern diets. When you look at primatology, the study of primates, and we are primates, anthropology, the study of humans and how they evolved, and the fossil record, a clear pattern emerges. Our physiology is deeply rooted in the dietary patterns of the great apes and early hominins. Yet today, most people eat diets high in animal products, high in processed foods, and high in refined sugars, which are foods that simply didn't exist for 99.999% of our evolutionary history. I wrote this important book, The Pliocene Diet, which is called The Pliocene Diet because it reflects to the Pliocene epoch. That is a particular time in the history of the planet that, that predated the use of stone tools. The use of stone tools um, marks the start of the Paleolithic era. And of course, anytime you're using technology, you're not in your natural. You're using technology to procure diet. You're not in your natural physiological diet. So I wrote this book to reconnect people with the nutritional blueprint encoded in our physiology and DNA, which is a blueprint that was shaped during the Pliocene epoch. This is when our ancestors consumed predominantly raw plant foods that our physiology is best adapted to procure and digest. And my goal is basically to offer a scientifically grounded, practical path back to the diet our bodies are built for.
Okay. Um, that sounds like a clear answer. Um, for how does the Pliocene diet difference from other ancestral or evolutionary diets like primal or uh, paleo?
Paleo, paleo.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Pliocene diet is a science-based nutritional framework modeled on the diets of our closest living relatives, chimpanzees and bonobos, and the fossil evidence of early hominins. That is not what these other diets are based on. The Pliocene diet emphasizes raw fruits, leafy greens, tender vegetables, nuts, and seeds in proportions that mirror what great apes naturally consume. It's not a fad diet, it's a science based physiological diet, which means it aligns with the digestive anatomy, enzyme profiles, and metabolic pathways that humans share with other great apes we are closely related to. Pliocene diet is about eating in harmony with our biology, not fighting against it. The paleo and primal movements often romanticize a hunter-gatherer past that in fact, greatly overemphasizes meat consumption. This is a huge error. When you're using technology like spears or stone tools or cutting implements to consume something, obviously your body cannot do on its own. You're jumping outside your biological niche. When you examine the actual anthropological evidence, early hominins were primarily frugivorous, fruit eating, with opportunistic foraging for greens, roots, and occasional nuts or seeds. The Pliocene diet corrects this misconception by grounding itself in evolutionary biology and physiology, not in nostalgia. It reflects what our digestive system is optimized for: high fiber, high micronutrient, low fat plant foods. In short, paleo looks to a speculative past. The Pliocene diet looks to a scientifically documented past that is now physiologically observable as truth.
Um, hope everything did work well. Uh, I need to check one thing. I'm not sure if anything was set up correctly. Oh, but no, I hope it didn't. Okay, can you do one test so, please? I might did make a
Oh,
mistake. Oh,
my
okay.
test?
Okay, did anything that look like it is set up correctly?
Okay.
I only put you a little bit higher, maybe, because I was talking a bit
Test,
louder than you.
test,
Yeah, it is correct now.
test.
It is correct now. It seems
Okay.
like we are now on the same uh, noise.
Oh, good, good.
Okay, I think they still were able to hear you, but now my fourth ear seems to be on the same level, which is, I think, best optimal. Uh, that also I was thinking about. That seems like I have often heard that the paleo diet is also based in kind of male-dominated like perspective, also because the hunter-gatherer thing was based on a specific type of masculinity that was a bit not the best form of masculinity, and put away the effort of the woman in the gatherings in the so-called hunter-gathering societies. Do you agree with that idea?
Well, I think the fact is that humans were meant to gather, not really to hunt. Hunting was a
Yeah,
desperate measure. Hunting is basically saying, well, I can't get enough food from what I'm gathering in my environment, so I'm going to need to do something horrible like go out and kill another creature. That's a terrible thing to have to do. It really is. It hurts the heart. It's dangerous. Requires non-physiological implements like tools and weapons. It's just something that most humans would prefer not to have to do. I mean, you have to be a psychopath to want to be a hunter. Really, it's you're going against your psychology in taking a life when you don't need to. Now, if you need to, that's one thing. That's self-defense. If you
yeah,
don't need to, it's just cruelty and
yeah,
psychopathy. So it's best, to stay in the gather mode.
yeah,
And a lot of Native American traditions, Native American, Native Mexican traditions were primarily plant-based.
yeah. There was
It's just that, they're
also
glorifying the hunters as if this is some sort of rite of masculine passage because it was generally done by males,
yeah,
and it unfortunately brutalized them and turned them into more savages than civilized beings. So it was a great shame that the cultures were forced into that, perhaps by food insufficiency. But the modern thing is we don't suffer from food insufficiency, at least in most developed countries, and in fact we would suffer less from food insufficiency overall if humans were eating a plant-based diet.
mhm. um What are the uh, what foods uh, what foods the what the food does the uh,
Pliocene.
Pliocene diet encourage, and which in the amount? Does it more focus on fruits or on vegetables or on
Well, there are three foundational principles of the Pliocene diet. First of all, we eat physiologically appropriate foods. Those are primarily raw fruits and leafy greens. We also honor ancestral ratios in the modern day wild chimpanzee diet of roughly 50% fruit, 40% leafy greens, and the remainder nuts, seeds, flowers, and other items. And we avoid biologically incompatible foods like animal products, processed foods, oils, and refined carbohydrates. These principles reflect the dietary patterns of great apes and early hominids and support optimal digestion, energy, and longevity. So, in essence, the diet encourages fresh fruits, leafy greens, tender vegetables, nuts, seeds, and wild or heirloom plant varieties whenever possible. Also, organic whenever possible. It also avoids all animal products, processed foods, oils, cooked starches, refined sugars. And these exclusions are not philosophical, they're physiological. They're based on science. And they reflect what our digestive system is and is not designed to handle.
okay. Um, which things can people do in the modern society? Which things can they implement made into the system, into their um into their daily life, from people that live an average life in today's world?
Um, are you asking how they can incorporate the Pliocene diet into their modern
Yeah,
lifestyles?
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not very difficult at all. You just simply go to, since their modern lifestyle incorporates a grocery store and the possibility of growing food in your backyard, it's not hard at all. If you don't have a place to grow food, then you can simply go to the grocery store or the farmer's market and shop in the produce section where there's raw foods and, you know, choose what looks good from you. Choose fresh fruit, about half of your shopping basket should be fresh fruit. About 40% of your shopping basket should be leafy greens, and then 10% of other stuff, tender vegetables, nuts, seeds, wild heirloom plant varieties. Now, it's important to mention that great apes really do not eat a lot of roots. They don't. That is just not something that they generally eat because roots are not a sustainable food in the forest environment in which they live. If they were to eat roots, then the plants would probably die. And it's very important that they eat foods that are renewable because they are relying on that food plant to regenerate itself or generate new leaves. So when they take fruit from a tree, of course, it doesn't kill the tree. When they pick a leaf from a leafy plant, it doesn't kill the plant. The plant grows another leaf. So those are all regenerative. When you take a root from a plant, though, you're killing the plant, and that is not regenerative. So roots are very rare food. They're considered a starvation food for great apes. So when they're starving, when they've got nothing else to eat, they may turn to roots, but it is the last resort. So that's important to remember. Um, and then you just generally avoid animal products, processed foods, oils, cooked starches, and refined sugars. So you shop in the produce section and the bulk bins of your grocery store. Now, the next step, of course, is becoming more food sufficient on your own. That means turning your backyard or your front yard into a food forest. Now, I've written another book on this. It's called The Food Forest Guide, and it talks about how to live in a forest. This is something that the plant-based traditions going back thousands of years, back to the Essenes, um, where it's documented that they would live in a small house, and around them they would plant fruit and nut trees, and then they live on these fruit and nut trees primarily. So, and then you have, garden, uh, I guess, a place to grow, also to grow your greens, so that you can have greens and fruits and nuts and seeds, and that's the way to become food sufficient. And the other cool thing is that when let's say you produce a little extra persimmons during the winter season, we often see that here. You can give them away or trade them for other foods that you might need. So it's a wonderful thing to start growing your own food. You really do feel in charge of your food supply, and and also you can make sure that there's only veganic inputs, which are vegan, organic. You can use compost as fertilizer. You can use I guess your personal waste products, so your urine, your feces. You can use those as fertilizer also. So we have a lot of opportunities to return to our roots as a species, to return to our physiological diet, and to become healthier as a result.
Mhm. Oh, um, I remember also seeing the yeah, for everybody that knows, LSD did write a heck of a lot of books. How much years did you was it again that you started to write
Uh,
books?
I've written I've written 20 books in the vegan, plant-based, nutritional healing space, promoting, kindness and promoting plant-based diets to humanity. I've also written about another 20 books in other areas, spirituality, music, and so on. So and I've even written an interesting book on the subject of spiritual medicines for humans. And how they can enhance their spirituality using certain plants and other substances.
Yeah. If anybody wants to know more about it, I can link the podcasts that I did or interview of some months ago where we did go shortly over different books that Alice did write. Um, I posted in the comments on YouTube if I posted there. And that's where I posted. Going to post link. Let me look for this next question on the lists. Um, by the way, are you still how much percent raw are you eating currently?
Well, I shoot for at least 80% raw. I mean, the best benefits, of course, are 99.9% to 100% raw. And a lot of people don't think that 80% raw is good enough, or raw till 4 is good enough, that sort of thing. But really, when I had my raw vegan restaurant, which is kind of how I came to this awareness of the health benefits of raw plant foods. Um, I was able to be 100% raw for about 3 years during the operation of the restaurant, because I would prepare the food and eat the food, and I found that 100% raw, had a number of really remarkable benefits. Not only was there exceptional healthful weight loss, which I had gained some weight after pregnancy, and I've managed to lose it all and then some, becoming not unhealthily slim, but really amazingly, vibrantly healthy and slim. And of course, when you're slimmer, you have less weight to carry around. So I had tons of energy. And then the thing that really, really struck me about the 100% raw diet, I was happy.
You
Really,
feel
truly, fundamentally, gloriously happy.
you did feel
And
more
I do
happy.
think that there is something, oh, yes, I believe that there is something about the diet that induces remarkable states of happiness. And it was maybe serotonin is produced, or by your gut flora or something like that. But it was really remarkable how happy I was. So now I'm, a bit more grounded, a bit more, just, but I still think it supports mood. It supports weight loss and healthy weights. It supports energy levels. Of course, it cleans up your skin, and uh, I think it's kinder to the world. It's kinder to the animals, kinder to the environment. Uh, Certainly, better for your long-term health because you're not clogging up your circulatory
Yeah,
system with saturated fats, which is the cause of most chronic disease.
yeah. I'm currently eats only 30% raw,
Oh, okay.
so it's mostly in the morning, and then I eat often something like with rice and curry in the afternoon and the evening. I'm
Well,
probably going to eat
with
more raw again in the summer.
I think it might have to do a little bit with your caloric requirements.
Yeah,
Sometimes some people find that they don't easily get enough calories on a high raw diet, and the reason for that, and the way you overcome it is you start looking to what are high calorie foods. You want calorie density instead of just nutrient density. People who have low caloric requirements, say the elderly or people that aren't very active,
yeah,
they need to eat more nutrient dense food. Whereas those who are highly active, they need to eat more calorie dense foods. So good calorie dense food for people on a raw vegan diet are dates. I have to say, dates, because they have lots of calories. They're a fruit. You can also, of course, nuts and seeds are high calorie foods, and you can sprout grains. So if you decide that you want to eat rice is a little bit challenging, but you can certainly sprout grains like wheat and both white wheat and red wheat, and you can also sprout oats. They sprout really well, and buckwheat is another sprouted uh, uh, grain type food. So there's a whole series of grains. Oh, rye, that's another one. And then you can food process the sprouted grains and then turn them into dehydrated breads, and that's called Essene bread. And so those are very tasty. And if you have higher caloric needs, then those are the sorts of foods they do have starches in them, and as well as proteins, and those will help support your higher metabolism.
okay. Yeah, I will try that if it's this summer again. I have really trouble when I eat when I eat a lot of um. So if I'm doing a lot of exercise, like I'm doing currently, I feel like feeling always like I have trouble getting enough calories in. I have always already trouble getting enough calories in because I'm not a big eater, but I need to eat something like 300 calories if I have done a lot of exercise and the 3000. And then I was thinking like, oh, how do I need to get enough food in?
Well, that's just the thing is the way if you're at a good weight. So let's say you're at a healthy weight.
Yeah,
And the way you figure out whether you need more calories or not is, are you losing weight? If you're losing weight, you need more calories. So, eat more dates,
yeah,
and maybe some nuts as well to provide additional food, like walnuts or hemp seed. Hemp seed is an amazing food. I really think that is one of the most underestimated foods on the planet. And in the U.S., it was prohibited for to even produce for decades because of the prohibition of cannabis. But since the growing of hemp, which is non-psychoactive cannabis, was legalized, we've been able to see hemp seeds return to the human diet, and they're fantastic. They have the perfect omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid ratio. They have high protein content. They have low saturated fat. These are fantastic, and they're very easy to digest. There's no like crunching of a hard nut or anything like that. There's just this really nice little hulled hemp seed. Heart that you can that's pretty much already chewed. So it's easy for the elderly to get their protein requirements. It's easy for young for children to consume. They don't have teeth. Again, it's one of the perfect foods for humans. And if you're looking to find a perfect protein containing food, then I highly recommend raw hemp seeds.
Yeah, for me it's mostly calories that I get too short on.
Well, it'll help you build muscle because it's high in protein, and it definitely has calories, and it's got the perfect omega-3 omega-6 fatty acid ratio. So things like flax seeds are often touted, but that's only because people eat things like high omega-6 plant oils. If you're not eating those things, then really hemp seeds are the optimal omega-3 omega-6 fatty acid ratio.
Okay. Okay, I have another question.
May-
Another.
Maybe I should mention
Yeah.
why that fatty acid ratio is important. The two omega-3s and omega-6s balance each other in terms of inflammation and the reduction of inflammation. So omega-6s increase inflammation. A little bit of inflammation is fine; it's not a problem, but too much, creates inflammatory health conditions and can exacerbate things like rheumatoid arthritis and other inflammatory issues. So um, the omega-3s, on the other hand, are anti-inflammatory and they reduce inflammation. So you want a good balance. You don't want too many omega-6s, or you get inflammatory health conditions, chronic health conditions. You don't want too little, or you don't have the inflammation needed to operate your immune system properly. So you want something in the middle, and that's what the hemp seeds provide, is a good balance of the two.
Okay. I see. Um. Um. Okay. Um. What's uh, mm, let me look. How can family um, okay, look, I'm just gonna go for, oh, what's the other one? Uh, mm, I was having another question that I wanted to ask. I got really confused a little bit. I was on the one. What? What other lifestyle factors can be implicated with the Pliocene diet? Be, together with the food changes, and
Oh, okay.
which what kind of exercise do you
Mhm.
recommend if you do recommend exercise?
Okay. So well, the diet is foundational. So the first thing is to change the diet to something that is healthful. Um, but then lifestyle also matters, and I speak a lot. In the Pliocene Diet book, I talk a little bit about lifestyle, but I really focus on lifestyle in my other book that's called Secrets of a Long and Healthy Life, my longevity book. So if you really want the lifestyle, expansion and the full detail about lifestyle, then please refer to that book also, because it covers a lot of things like daily movement, sunlight exposure to get good vitamin D, D3 uh, levels, adequate sleep, stress reduction, and eventually spending time in nature. Spending time in nature is very, in my view, very healthful. All creatures were evolved to spend time in nature. That's what we were supposed to do. So when we are in our artificial environments, we don't have that connection. We don't feel the earth under our feet. We don't surround ourselves with the beauty and interconnectedness of nature. And I think that is something that we miss, intrinsically, if we are you know if we stay within our little houses and don't get involved in natural scenery. So I definitely encourage time in nature. Um, again, these sorts of behaviors are natural to great apes, and they mirror the natural rhythms of our ancestors, and they support the body's innate healing processes. So, you know, these are, you just basically have to think, well, what does a chimpanzee do? They exercise. They are in the sun, although they live in the forest, so they don't get a lot of sun. And they do have hair, which is something on their skin, which we don't have so much hair. So there are some differences, but sunlight exposure basically gives you extra vitamin D, and you need vitamin D. It's part of your healthy immune system, helps build bones. So definitely that we are made to generate our own vitamin D3. Now, if you are an indoors person and you can't get in the sun for some reason, then the alternative is taking a vitamin D3 supplement. And the vitamin D3 supplement that vegans take is made from something called a plant called lichen. Actually, it's not. I think it's a fungus, actually, maybe a mold or something like that. But it's not quite a plant, but it is a plant-related food, and it's a vegan food. And vitamin D3 from lichen is available. Now, the alternative is vitamin D2. Plant sources and fungal sources do have a substantial amount of vitamin D2. Like mushrooms, for example, are famous for their vitamin D2 content. But the problem is that D2 doesn't convert that well to D3 in humans. So we're really meant to get sun. If you can get sun, that's great. Now, the amount of sun that you would need is about uh, maybe about 15 to 20 minutes between the hours of 10 and 2, 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's when the sun is most direct, and it's 15 to 20 minutes shouldn't result in sunburn. If you do feel as though you're got very fair skin, then you can start gently. Like I remember when I was young, I would spend most of my time outdoors, and or in sometime in the forest, but also just simply outdoors. And my I started off at the beginning of the summer. I would get a little bit of sun on my skin, and I would build it up, and then at the end of the summer, I could stay out pretty much all day. So it's my skin got very dark, which is my normally fair skin got very dark. So that tanning process is something that basically allows you to extend your time in the sun and get even more D3 synthesized.
Yeah. I personally go into the sun often from if I'm going in the summer, when I'm talking more about the summer, I go in the sun from something like so often I wake up then 6 in the summer, and then I'm going to my garden, and then I'm being there until 9. That's the
Right.
time that
So
I'm
in the
mostly,
morning,
yeah.
the morning.
I'm a really morning
Yeah.
person.
So this probably you need a little bit more sun during that time than you would if you were there between 10 and 2, but I was just giving people an idea.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention was the type of exercise that people on a plant-based diet need. Once you have been on a plant-based diet for a reasonably long period of time, and that's generally a low saturated fat plant-based diet, your circulatory system, your vascular system will start to clear out, and you'll no longer have hardened arteries. So you are able to you don't need the sort of exercise that people with hardened arteries need in order to push blood through their constricted circulatory system. So, exercise, especially aerobic exercise, helps with the mitigation of a poor diet. So there's certain things that people who eat animal products do in order to mitigate the adverse effects of their uh, I guess, inappropriate diet. And it's physiologically inappropriate diet. So they exercise a lot. They might drink alcohol. They might eat garlic. These sorts of things. The alcohol acts as a bit of a solvent. The garlic helps reduce cholesterol levels. And the exercise
Yeah.
helps push blood through their clogged circulatory systems. But honestly, if you've been plant-based or vegan for a fairly long period of time, you don't have that problem. So there's no need to be
Eating a
pumping
lot.
iron or
Yeah.
doing or exercising a lot. In fact, that just really makes you eat more and then your metabolism's higher, and then you're wasting food, really. Um, for the most part, a good walk around the neighborhood, maybe a couple of miles, good walk at a reasonable pace, is sufficient for a long-term vegan. There is no need to be, actively exercising unless you're trying to do, prove a point. Like, let's say you're trying to be a vegan bodybuilder. Well, in that case, you're going to have to exercise your muscles in order to build them. That's true. You're going to have to feed your
Yeah,
muscles in
or
order protein in order to build them.
or
But
you want
but
to.
that's a specialized activity. If you're an athlete, let's say you're looking to go in the Olympics, or you're looking to be a tennis athlete. I mean, some of the great tennis athletes these days are vegan or plant based, because it's the vegan diet. And I wrote another book on this called the Peak Performance Diet. It's about how to use a plant-based diet and the clearer circulatory system that you have as a result of a plant-based diet to increase your athletic performance. So this is a specialized field, and it's different to most people. Most people are, not involved in heavy duty athletic training, or you know or trying to build muscle. Most people are just looking to exist comfortably, healthily, economically. And that's what the Pliocene diet can offer. Once you've been on it for a reasonable amount of time, you do not need to exercise excessively. That is not something that is required. Reasonable exercise, a walk, a couple of miles walking a day should be more than sufficient. And the advantages of course, moving your body is that you get better vascular flow, better immune function, and ultimately, weight normalization, reduced inflammation, lower blood pressure, clearer skin, better digestion. All these things tend to come along with, uh, exercise and a good diet.
Okay. Um, mm, mm, um, how do you how do you respond uh, to concern about raw plant-based diet when it comes when they claim that is lacking certain nutrients or amino acids, and so, and which are the ones that people claim that you are, which what kind of minerals or vitamins do people often claim that you will miss on raw plant-based being approved diet, and
Oh,
how do you
okay.
respond to that?
So Okay, so some people are concerned that a raw plant-based diet lacks protein or certain essential nutrients. Okay, well, there's an explanation for it isn't actually that the diet lacks it. It's just that humans, it doesn't lack it for great apes, for example. It's just that humans have a psychological prohibition about eating things that complete the diet. For instance, I know the most notable one is vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is a
Yeah.
very interesting vitamin. You only need a tiny, tiny amount of it, because it comes from microbes. You need about 2.4 micrograms. Now that's so tiny you can't even see it. That's you know that's extremely, extremely a tiny, tiny amount. 2.4 millionths of a gram is how small it is. So, and it's kind of interesting because this is not made by animals, or in animal bodies. It's made by bacteria. and the bacteria that grow in soil, and they also are populated in our hindgut. However, oddly enough, humans are not able to absorb vitamin B12 in their hindgut. They can only absorb it in the foregut. So what this means is that, like, say, rabbits, for example, which are famous for creating a certain type of feces that they consume for nutritional value, humans are currently culturally conditioned to not take advantage of that source. The other source, of course, would be dirt. Again, humans culturally conditioned to not take advantage of that source. So the final source is, well, we can cultivate it in big vats, and we can create a supplement that gives us all the vitamin B12 we need. So most people use that alternative, and they take vitamin B12 supplements, either sublingual if they're having difficulty with absorption, or they take other types of things. There is the possibility of a severe B12 deficiency exists to take an injection, but for the most part, they're just taking oral supplements, and that's perfectly fine. So I guess the alternative to the oral supplement is feces or dirt, and most humans won't go there. So that the
Yeah.
supplement is a good solution. There's also a nutritional supplement that some people choose, and that's called nutritional yeast, and that is yeast that is no longer active, but it does produce vitamin B12, and so that provides vitamin B12 more than sufficient for
Yeah.
vegans.
I often say um, that the B12 is not a vegan problem, but it is more like sanitation, an obsession with with overly
Yes, an
sanitization.
obsession. Yeah, exactly, an obsession with sanitation. Now you'll notice that other great apes, like chimpanzees, for example, they eat feces, they eat dirt. They don't have that obsession. So we do have that obsession, and it creates a deficiency. So
Yeah.
it's a obsession deficiency.
I think in the past we probably did get a lot of more or vitamin B12 from probably dirt or not being really hygienic, because people in the medieval times were not really hygienic from all the evidence that I did read.
I think that's the case, and the fact is you don't need to be really hygienic if you have a good immune system. Hygiene is something that, because our immune system is diminished by the fact that we're not eating a lot of raw fruits and greens, um, we have to be more hygienic. We don't have as good an immune system, and that brings up another possible deficiency issue, and that is vitamin D3. We already talked about that extensively. You get vitamin
Yeah.
D3 from sun. Get some
Uh,
sun. That's how
um,
you get it.
yeah,
Or
not
take a supplement.
yeah,
Then there's the protein issue. Now, the general rule on protein that the nutritional doctors and nutritionists all say is this: if you're getting enough calories, you're going to be getting enough protein. But there are some people that want to get more protein than they need. And those people, like bodybuilders, for example, they can turn to sources like high protein sources like hemp seed, which I talked about. I think it's a fantastic bodybuilder supplement. Um, and just simply keep the other thing we have to consider is the amount of protein per calorie. The amount of protein per calorie in plants is vastly better, which is why part of the reason why weight normalization um, is so notable on plant-based diets, and the Pliocene diet is no exception to that. It's a great for weight normalization. And as far as how do the other great apes manage it? They build enormous muscle mass on raw plant foods. You ever seen a gorilla? I mean, they're built, okay, purely plant-based. So really, the concern over lack of protein or essential nutrients stems from cultural conditioning and marketing by the meat industries. They make you think you need this when you totally do not, and it makes you sick. Also, your government. Your government would like you to die early, please, so that they don't have to pay you Social Security or retirement pension. Please die early. Please, thank you. Eat all this meat we're making cheap, so that you can die early. And that's the topic of my book, the Human Dietary Conspiracy, which talks about the fact that in the United States, at least, that the government really only subsidizes animal products, which cause an early death, and the animal feeds, the GMO corn and soy, that are used to feed those animals and make them excessively fat so that their tissues are exceptionally unhealthy and have high saturated fat that leads to a variety of vascular diseases and early death. So it's something that I think everyone should be aware of, that this is a fact, and it's something that you can avoid. You can avoid that early death and increase your longevity by not consuming animal products. Oh, I should also mention that
Yeah.
raw fruits and greens contain all essential amino acids in the proportions we need. One of the things that I think actually you mentioned this to me, Vigani, and that
Yeah.
the World Health Organization did a study in the 1970s on the amount of protein that humans actually needed,
Yeah. It was
and
far
this is an
lower
important.
than people thought before that.
Right, right. It was like it's ridiculously low. It's like 5% of dietary calories. Are
Yeah.
you kidding? 5%
And
of
that's what
dietary and
that's
so
what
then
that's what
and so then
human.
they doubled it and recommended an amount of 10%. But even so, 5% is so low. When you talk about a dog or a cat, for example, dogs are omnivores and cats are obligate carnivores in the wild, and their protein requirements are more like 35% for dogs and 55% for cats. And we're at 5%. So there's no reason why we should be eating like cats or dogs. We should be eating like great apes, which eat, plants, fruits and greens, nuts and seeds. That's what we should be eating. Also, plant foods provide nutrients that animal products lack. They provide antioxidants, phytonutrients, fiber, and water. When you eat enough calories from whole plant foods, nutrient sufficiency is not only achievable, it's optimal for your health.
Um. I mean, what's mm, mm, how can mm,
Did you want to talk about transition?
um, okay, yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, well, some people find that, or some people think that transitioning to the Pliocene diet might make them feel overwhelmed. And there's two ways of doing it. The way I do it is, I just change. Once I realize that, something is the right way to go, I just change completely. But not everybody likes that route, and there is a side effect to doing it immediately, and that is that something called uh, a die-off reaction. And this is where the gut flora that is used to eating animal products dies off and is replaced by healthier gut flora that digests fruit, that lives on fruit and greens. So that die-off reaction can feel a little bit like the flu. It's sometimes called a detox reaction or a Herxheimer reaction, and you know I didn't mind it myself. It really didn't bother me. I just felt like I was just getting better, and that's how I framed it in my mind. But then there's others that prefer to go more gradually. So you can start. If you want to go gradually, you can start with a simple shift. Just increase your intake of fresh fruits and leafy greens. That's simple enough. Go to the store, go to the produce section, buy some fruits, buy some leafy greens, and start packing them in there. Have fruits for breakfast, have greens with your lunch, have greens with your dinner, and then start transitioning as you get more and more used and your body enjoys the fresh fruits and greens. And then let those foods naturally crowd out less optimal choices. Next, you can experiment with fully raw meals, perhaps for breakfast or for lunch. Try the raw till four technique, which is where you basically eat all raw food until 4 o'clock and then you have a cooked meal. Some people find that because of the extra energy you have on the raw vegan diet, that they don't need as much sleep or they don't get as much sleep because they just feel all peppy and energetic. Wow, wouldn't that feel great? So, so the need to sleep we feel is probably reduced by the raw vegan diet. The next thing, you know, explore recipes and meal plans. In my book, I do include recipes and meal plans. To help you transition. There's plenty of other resources. I have a raw vegan recipes book out, which focuses on that. That was the subject. That was the result of my raw vegan restaurant. So I was very fortunate to be able to spend about 3 years running one of the world's first raw vegan restaurants. And I set it up, designed the menu, prepared the food, served the food, had a really delightful time. And what it really opened my eyes to was how many people were using this diet to heal themselves. It was remarkable. It was truly remarkable that the diet was considered such a healing diet by so many people. People would come from miles away. They'd come from Texas. They'd come from Southern California to just come to my restaurant and enjoy you know fully prepared raw vegan recipes. And so I took all those recipes once I closed my restaurant and I put them into a book. And it's called, believe it or not, Raw Vegan Recipes. And you can find that also on my Amazon author page. I also have one of the world's largest Facebook groups dedicated to raw vegan recipes. It's called Raw Vegan Recipes. My website that promotes this, and it's based on that restaurant thing, is called Raw from the Garden. And I also have a Facebook page of the same name, so you can see up-to-date recipes. I just put one out just the other day, which was a spiralized zucchini with avocado pesto dressing and pine nuts. I think it was quite a delicious thing, and that brings up the subject of food preparation. Well, food preparation in the Pliocene diet is about simplicity. Think of the chimpanzee walking around the forest, picking fruit, picking greens, cracking open a nut or a seed with a rock, that sort of thing. This is the basis of the diet, simplicity. Raw meals require minimal processing that typically consists of chopping, blending, spiralizing, or assembling. Now, I mentioned spiralizing. Spiralizing is a way of basically creating things that look like noodles or pasta from plant foods. And generally, you're using zucchinis, which are easy to grow, and they work great. You're also using maybe carrots, maybe cucumbers, things along those lines that spiralize well. And you're turning them into noodle-like, foods, and then you top those like you would top noodles. So it's another way of taking all those pasta dishes that you used to eat with all those refined carbohydrates and being able to make similar dishes that are all raw, all vegan, and able to kind of cut out those other foodstuffs while still getting similar flavors. And that's a great idea. The other thing I recommend is getting something like a food processor. Good food processor like a Cuisinart. The Cuisinarts is what I used in my restaurant. I really love the Cuisinarts. And what's really amazing is that after about 20 years or so, they're still running. I mean, they are such workhorses. So I really do recommend the Cuisinarts. And then for blending, you can use a conventional blender, but in my restaurant, I used Vitamixers. Vitamixers are interesting because they don't actually have sharp blades, but they just have a lot of power. And they do a fabulous job of blending things, especially, and you can even, make flour and things in them. They grind up seeds, nuts, everything incredibly well. And then you just have to put it all together. And sometimes there's another technique that's used in raw plant-based food preparation. That's called dehydration. Dehydration is a natural process. You're basically taking out the water And this allows you to create textures like crackers and loaves and things like that. So non meat loaves that have an interesting texture that can replicate other things you might be used to eating. So and it can also help preserve food because without the water, it doesn't tend to rot as quickly. So it's something where you can. I mean, I remember I made some flax crackers, dehydrated flax crackers, and like a year later, I had them in the refrigerator, and a year later, I opened them up and they were still good. I was like, "That's amazing!" so so there's definitely benefits. The other thing is sprouting. Let's talk about sprouting and soaking. Now, sprouting is first. The first step is soaking. Now, you'll soak almost all nuts to activate them. But most seeds should be and legumes should be sprouted. Not all legumes sprout well. I've had a really hard time with things like beans and so on. They don't sprout very well, but lentils sprout really well, and so do mung beans, and so do chickpeas. So you can kind of focus on those three legumes if you feel as though legumes are important to you, and you'll sprout them so that they have little tails, and then use them. You can food process them, make things like hummuses and other types of uh, bean blends. You can also eat them on salads, and they provide protein benefit as well as the. Did I mention hemp seeds yet? So
Yeah.
hemp seeds, another
I
another
have
another
heard
great option.
you have mentioned
Which doesn't
simple a lot.
hemp seeds, but also if your teeth aren't super strong, let's say you're older and so on, you don't have strong teeth, then you can take nuts and like. Uh, Walnuts and almonds and so on. And remember, nuts are not the top foods we're focusing on fruits and greens. But if you did want some nuts and you weren't able to chew them well, then just put them in a food processor, grind them up, and make something called a nut pate. And that's really great. You can put that onto your salads. You can put it. You can eat it by itself. It also works, to add a little bit of savory flavor by putting some mushrooms in it. So there's just a ton of things you can do, and you can recreate a lot of the things that you already eat, uh, but with raw plant-based food. So that's called I call that replication, where I'm trying to say, okay, I think I'm going to try to make a dish that looks like meatloaf, and then work on that dish. So you'll see some examples of replication in my raw vegan recipes book. Um, uh, taking, for instance, carrot pulp and turning that comes out of your juicer that you've juiced some carrots, got some carrot juice, and now taking the carrot pulp and
Yeah.
and mixing that with like a nut based mayonnaise and some lemon juice and some ginger and some dill and making it into something that looks and tastes a lot like salmon salad. So these things are very doable, and there's just all sorts of creative versions. But there's nothing to stop you from just simply taking an apple and eating an apple, or taking some greens and eating some greens. Those are also, the simple ways of doing it are really the best. The other stuff, it's totally not necessary. That's just taking a handful of nuts. That these things are easy, and it doesn't have to be complicated. But if you're going to have a restaurant, you might want to do the fancier stuff. But if you're just looking for
Yeah.
food at home, keep it simple
Okay.
is
So
fine.
we are now at the last 5 minutes.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
already. Um, what do you hope that the readers and our listeners will take away from the Pliocene diet? Pliocene diet.
The Pliocene diet.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is that I would like them to try to understand the type of creature that they are a great ape, and that their body actually informs them scientifically about the type of food that they're meant to consume. And that this type of food, when they consume it, i.e., raw plants, fruits, greens, nuts, and seeds, that when they consume that, it changes their health. That it has an impact on a positive impact on their health. That and that vibrant health is not mysterious or inaccessible. That it is just simply a matter of the fact that you were told or that you were marketed to or that your government would like you to consume a diet that is not healthy for you. So when you consume the right diet, which is available in the produce section in the bulk bins, you can uh, the natural outcome is eating and of eating in alignment with our evolutionary design is vibrant, radiant health, like you've never experienced before, probably in your entire life. And that is your birthright. That's what you were born to feel like. You were born to be energetic and happy and slim and immensely clear. You were born for that, and your food choices are what's keeping you away from it. So make the right food choices, change your life. And I don't mean just go on a diet and get slim and then go back to eating what you were eating before. I mean enjoy the lifestyle, live the lifestyle. It's the prize, and you deserve it. So the Pliocene diet is an invitation for everyone to reclaim their health by returning to the foods our bodies were built for. It's a path toward longevity, vitality, and a deeper connection with our ancestral roots. And you know what? It's also a lot kinder to animals because animals are treated so badly in factory farms, all factory farms, organic and otherwise. There's no humane meat. You just can't do it. You can't kill an animal humanely. Humane means kind. Well, you can't be kind when you're killing someone unless they've asked you to, and no animals ask for that generally
Yeah, I
that are
agree.
trapped in factory farms. So we have to consider that we're not the only species on the planet, and that we're being really, really, really mean to other species in order to use them for food. So let's not do that. We don't have to. Our physiology tells us we're not supposed to. Our radiant health when we eat the right diet tells us we're not supposed to. So let's not do it. It's just mean, it's sadistic. Let's not do it. So I think that's the other lesson is that not only can we be radiantly healthy, but we can be kinder too. And it just so happens that it's better for the environment and it's better for food sufficiency and better for I don't know if there's a reduced CO2 production from plant-based agriculture. There's just a wide variety of benefits, and I think that I really, really would like people to understand where they came from and what kind of species they are and what that says about their diet.
Okay, thanks for being here today, doing the interview with me about
Oh,
your
you're welcome.
book. I hope I did somewhat a good job. I
Yes.
and I and maybe we can talk about next about another book of you or another topic, a topic that you were been thinking about or that I was thinking about that you can share your view about, and I can then share what I think about. If you do like that.
Sure. Yeah, we could do a back and forward. I think that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess what I'd really like to do next, with this is that I just want to keep educating people, writing more books, making music, which we've talked about also, and building a community of people committed to species appropriate nutrition. I'm working on additional resources, workshops, recipe collections, possibly a companion book to help support people on their Pliocene diet journey. And the movement's really growing. I mean, I can't believe the amount of interest that we've had in my raw vegan recipes group. Over 50,000 people, really are gung ho about eating raw plant based foods. And the movement's growing because the science is clear. And once you try it, you just know it. You know it's good. It's like it's the world has been waiting for. I guess this opportunity has been waiting for you, and it's a chance for you to take it right now. The science is clear. When we return to our ancestral dietary blueprint, i.e., what our body tells us we were born to eat, health follows. And if people are interested in keeping in touch with me or getting specialized consulting, they can either contact me via my Facebook page, Raw from the Garden, or via the website at http://www.pliocenediet.com. Now you spell Pliocene Pliocene Diet, diet.com.
I placed
Thank you,
those.
Graham. I really,
Yeah, I also
thank you,
placed
Vegaani. I really appreciate it.
I placed also the link in the description on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much.